Louder with Crowder is brought to you in part by .com. You don't have to be a freeloader your whole life. The good news is that you can support this show and the fight by buying some really cool clothes. .com.
Well, all right, then. That's called a panic slurp because right before we went live, I have a cup of hot tea because I still have this throat thing going on.
Yeah.
And it burned my third knuckle, so I knew that shouldn't go down the gullet. That's right before when I went...
Saved it.
No.
And you guys would never know.
We didn't even know. You told the story, though.
Just like the Martha Stewart. All right, glad to be with you guys. We're not on YouTube today, but we are still on Rumble and, of course, Mug Club.
Yeah.
Thank you, Rumble, for people watching. You can smash that Rumble button. We're going to be talking about a lot today. And just so you know, I'm going to be going off book a little bit because I'm furious.
Pissed.
That this, I believe this is the biggest scandal of our time, the Wuhan
Pretty
lab
big
scenario.
It could be real.
And gun to my head, I absolutely think it came from a lab. I will explain to you why I believe that, and I will present my case. Also, we have top 5 times that Fauci and Rand Paul got into arguments. Every single time, Rand Paul has been proven to be correct.
I want to see them
5-0.
Yep.
Really do.
Yeah.
That'd be great.
All right, we have Gerald A. here. How are you?
I am okay.
Good.
Just okay.
Well, you know what?
that's
Drink
sad.
your caffeine because you need to bring it up a little bit.
Get up. What's going on?
Treat it like it's your job. Quarter Black, how are you?
Yeah, what's going on?
Your mic's a little bit hot compared to... Maybe
Mine?
just
Hey.
Gerald's
Oh,
voice is more soothing.
I
And then Dave Landau, you have a show coming up.
Ahoy. I do tomorrow night at the Improv in Houston.
Oh, really?
Yes.
In
Look
Houston.
at that.
In Houston.
The butthole of Texas. But nice
Yes.
people.
True.
Nice people live in the butthole. Hey, speaking of...
It's not their fault.
Speaking of buttholes, it's gay month.
Oh.
You gave the ultimate
What?
sacrifice for our country, you got a day. You have a little bit of melanin, you get a month.
Oh.
You like the D, you get a month. And Blue's Clues is kicking off the... We have the shortened version, right?
Yes.
Because I had to watch the full version. I don't want to watch... Buddy, I don't want to watch the full version. Please tell me you've got Papa
Too
the
much.
short version. Here's Blue's Clues celebrating Love and Dick Month.
Hey, Blue, look at all these families. Hi, families. It's time for a pride parade.
This family has 2 mommies, they love each other so proud. This family has 2 daddies, they love each other so proudly. Hurrah!
Ace, By, and Pan grown-ups, you see, can love each other so proudly. Allies to the queer community can love their queer friends so proud. Thanks, Blue. Happy Pride Month.
Wow.
That's child-friendly, according to YouTube.
Yep.
I feel like we're
Don't
going
let
to have
you
a lot
watch.
of serial
Don't let 'em-
killers in about 15 years.
Not to
It's
mention...
really not even looking for clues. It's
No.
very
No,
lazy.
it's very-
outfit.
Pretty obvious. Yeah, it's right in the
Clue,
front.
hold on. Let me guess. Is he
Nope.
gay? How'd you tell? The feather boa and the penis in his face?
Yeah.
The cock sock in the parade.
Yeah, that was what tipped me off.
Oh, my gosh.
Not to mention the interspeciesism going on there. That's a whole problem.
I'm trying
Yeah.
to. It really offended me trying to wedge the word proudly.
Don't say wedge
in there.
in this
Oh,
scenario.
Oh,
No.
whoa.
What is a... I'm not being
Sorry.
prejudiced here.
Sure you are.
Yeah. And I say this with the most precious. What is pansexual and how can it be apparent?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean that. Isn't it nothing? Doesn't it define as nothing?
It's you can be any gender.
It's a chameleon.
And you can be, so in other words, you're bisexual and you're intergender.
Right.
Okay.
So because of course, remember, people got furious when Christians implied that your sexual activities are a choice. Not your sexual preferences. They said there's no way, we have no control over sexual activities. We, however, of course, we can choose our gender. So you're born gay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
No say in the matter, but you can choose whatever sex you want to be.
Right. Yeah.
Boys
Got it.
have a penis, girls have a vagina.
You stop your hate speech, cute kid from Kindergarten Cop.
Stop it.
Evil.
Speaking out of turn.
Boy.
You're canceled.
And I'm about to have twins. My wife is. I hate that we're pregnant. No, we're not. She's pregnant. I had some fun.
Yeah, we do very little.
Yeah,
to
we do
contribute.
very,
Honey,
very
that
little.
looks painful. Is it painful?
I'm not
Yes,
going to let
okay.
my kids watch anything. They will have access
Oh,
to no
no.
iPad.
Oh, yeah.
Because if you put on Netflix and it's kid friendly, this is right there.
Yep.
Yeah. We saw
Yeah, I
the
don't
Fruit
need 'em to
Loops
see.
box that was going around that they were pushing all that stuff too, right? It was
It's
crazy.
every children's channel.
And
now,
the issue,
every single
people
one.
look, I'm not saying that you want to teach your kids to hate anybody.
No.
Of course, they should love and be nice to gay people
Yeah.
and even the drag queen
course.
storytime convicted pedophile, as actually happened at drag queen storytime. We know this.
that's true.
Or, convicted pedophiles who are shot by Kyle Rittenhouse, right? It's just, for some reason, anywhere you go, there's a leftist organization. You throw a dart, you hit a convicted pedophile.
exactly.
It's just happenstance. Doesn't happen anywhere else, though.
So gay
it's-
tours?
Yes. Alligators.
Alligators?
Oh, geez.
Sorry,
Somebody's going to make that a
And
show. Thanks a lot, Dave.
It's one of those things where there is no conversation. You can't. Here's the issue: you can't explain to your kid what gay is without getting into sexual territory.
Right.
Right. Kids aren't thinking, what does that mean? Because it is abnormal. Okay, it is abnormal, meaning it is atypical. There are far more people who are straight. Most kids growing up just, they think girls are kind of cute, so they cover it up and say cooties.
Yeah.
But then they go, what's that? Why is that man dressed like a woman? And why are these people, humping on why are two men playing leapfrog on a float? And now you've got to explain.
I'm scared.
It's because they're gay. Well, what does that mean?
Yeah.
It means that they're attracted to, what does that mean? It means they like to have sex with guys and they get a month. Remember your grandpappy who died on the beaches? He gets a day.
It's a long weekend.
So
Yeah.
anyway, let's move on from this.
Yeah.
States have been offering incentives for the vaccine,
Oh,
including money, beer,
beer.
ice cream.
You're not going to catch me with that.
West Virginia was the beer. Sorry, guys.
Also, a puppy you're holding out of a van.
Candy.
Oh my god.
What was the state budget there in New York to put the panels on the van, to duct tape the windows? So we go now live to live on the street to Miami, Florida, to see how Americans are reacting to these ploys.
Did you guys get vaccinated?
No, we didn't.
That vaccination. Why would we get that stupid ass shit? Hey, y'all can vaccinate them loud rats, but you ain't vaccinating me and my bitches. You got me f***ed up.
I didn't understand that.
She ain't doing
Then my
it, son.
hose. Then my hose.
So is that a no?
Now,
Okay.
have you seen Free Colt 45?
Terrible.
What do you think of mint chocolate chip, ladies? Does that sway you in any direction?
I'm a Rocky Road, bitch,
I'm gonna think about it.
Yeah.
Oh wow, that was it was uncalled for. Sorry, I apologize right off the bat. Whenever I get into that, it's a more cultured show.
She took your mic. Just let her.
Yeah. Just don't.
It's hers now.
Don't say.
It's like Bernie
it go.
Sanders when he just handed the mic over to Black Lives Matter and
Yeah.
didn't
Yeah.
do anything.
Oh, vey.
He must have heard about my tipping. So
17% every time.
this is another story, another outrage, because we're going to be talking about the vaccine a lot and it leaking from the lab a lot. But Ellie Kemper, Kimmy Schmidt,
Yeah.
you know that actress? This was trending everywhere yesterday. And I tell you, I feel really bad for her because this is a bogus story. It's not true. She played, she played the redhead girl in The Office. She's the redhead girl who was in The Office. She played Kimmy Schmidt. And she was trending yesterday because people think that she won a beauty pageant with ties to the KKK.
What?
There's been a trend everywhere.
Yeah.
Stanley is not going to like
Do we have the
this.
picture of her being in the little dress there? So, let me just clarify this. She was not the princess of a KKK anything.
Right.
At all. Now, you might not like the organization. You might not like this debutante ball, which is where she had won something.
Yeah.
The photo was taken of her, I guess it's over Lacey, at the 99 Veiled Prophet Ball in St. Louis. Okay, so this is a practice, kind of like it's an activity that's been going on in St. Louis for a while. Veiled Prophet, look, admittedly pretty weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a
Anytime you
little
have
mysterious.
veiled and prophet both in the name, you're like, ooh, okay.
Well, the idea of the Klan having a beauty pageant is just hilarious.
It is hilarious.
Kind of weird John Benet
You're like,
Ramsey
wow,
thing.
it's great.
Yeah.
They're all inbred.
They all wear their hoods. It's like, well, I don't know what it's like
can't
under.
tell.
Sort of
I
like when
can't
you look
vote
at
on
the
that.
Rockefellers and the Rothschilds and you see wealth passed down, you just see the beauty pageant crown of the KKK is all of Honey Boo Boo's foremothers.
Yes.
It comes with a side of sketty.
Yes. So here's the thing. Illustrations from the start of this the Veiled Prophet organization.
Okay, yeah.
1800s, right, show a lot of white hoods. That's what people are talking about because it shows hoods. Okay, so people are like, KKK. Well, look, that's late 1800s. When you look at those pictures, the KKK, they weren't created until 1915. They were not created until 1915. The organization has no ties whatsoever to the KKK or the KKK agenda. You can talk about how maybe it's a classist thing because it's the wealthy elite who wanted to use this to sort of, stifle labor disputes. Fine. Nothing to do.
Well, if I find out a television star is part of the wealthy elite, I'm going to be pretty pissed
Yes.
Well, the story even said it's like these people that are putting these balls on. It's like they're classist, they're elite, and they're most likely probably racist as well. Like it just kind of throws
That
that
last
in
part is the
as
big jump.
It's like what? Come on! It's how can you assume they're racist because they have money?
Putting balls on? Are we discussing Nick Jr. again?
Right. And by the way, this is just, it points out the double standard because he contrasts that when Justin Trudeau was voted queen at the Zambian ice ball. This is something that it becomes...
Good for him. Good for him.
I forgot about that.
The funny thing is, we didn't Photoshop the blackface.
No.
We just put him in...
A different...
Oh, yeah. Very easy Photoshop to do. He does most of the work.
Yes, he does it
He does
repeatedly.
90%. We do 10%.
Non-stop.
Connoisseur.
He's a connoisseur of blackface.
He is. He's one of the best.
Is that shoe polish? I prefer to use more of a Foot Locker varnish.
Yes. He would
Stays on long.
definitely be in the Blackface Hall of Fame.
I don't know how this man is still allowed to be prime minister. Then again, I don't know how Canada is allowed to be a country.
That's true.
Wait, it's funny you mentioned
Grace.
about this with the article, though. That black and white photo you just showed is what they're putting in every single picture with her to make you think that's what she was wearing.
Right. And by the way, it was when I think they changed the name from Veiled Prophet Ball by the time she was in 1999. The point is, look, I think debutante balls are silly, okay?
Yeah.
I'm not but you're really trying to destroy someone's career for just doing something that was likely tradition. This is high school, nothing to do with the KKK. She was at the ball with, at that point, black people who were attending. Let's just be, come on, this just shows you, this is why you don't apologize to liberals.
Yeah.
There is no forgiveness in their cold, evil hearts. And I mean it. There is no forgiveness in the hearts of these people. They want to destroy someone's career. And this is probably one of their own.
Yeah.
Who's done nothing wrong.
They don't have any evidence of her being racist since then that they're like, well, see, this just confirms. This is like, hey, we've got a 23-year-old picture here that we would like to tie to her being racist. Of course that's a KKK outfit. Like, clothes can't mean something else.
They'll find something of her being racist. She was a part of the Derrick comedy troupe, which was Childish Gambino. Donald Glover. Donald Glover. I was like, who's the other one now? Who's the other Glover? The older Glover.
Danny Glover.
Danny Glover.
Bro.
Well, it's obvious.
Getting too old for this shit.
You ever see their spelling? You ever see their spelling bee? Their spelling bee sketch?
The best.
Can we not say it now?
I don't think so.
Is my point?
Apparently.
Go look up Derek spelling bee, okay? It's the N-word followed by the F-word. Faggot. I don't want to say F-word. The N-word followed by faggot is the word they have to spell, and it's very funny, and white people are up there saying, the idea was that it was absurd.
Yeah.
Donald Glover was right there who helped write the sketch. I don't know if Kimmy Schmidt was a part of that troupe, but the point is, what was permissible 10 years ago, not anymore.
I think the N-word followed by the F-word is playing the Fillmore this weekend.
Yes.
Good band. Them and Debutante Balls is opening up.
Good mixtapes. Hey, by the way, if you're watching on Rumble right now, smash that Rumble button.
Do it.
We appreciate, of course, the best place to watch is Mug Club. loudestcreditor.com/Mug Club. You get another
Hold on. There we go.
45 minutes, regardless of when or if we stream back to YouTube. And today we'll be playing newest gender pronouns.
Yeah. Oh, no, there's more?
There is more. We'll be playing that, but I'm saying for Mug Club only.
More.
Yeah,
No, it's not like Rumble would ever remove us, but it's still taking your chat. Okay, so here's something else that's pretty important that I want you to use your little reason bone here. And right now we have to guess, because scientists are saying, well, it could be, at this point, just as likely, some scientists are saying more likely, that the Wuhan virus originated from a Wuhan lab as opposed to occurring in nature. And ask yourself why all of a sudden this is even being discussed. But at the very least, people in the media now are acknowledging that the reason they quelled all of these, what they at the time said were rumors, what they said were conspiracies, is because conservatives were saying it. They're saying it must be racist. Why? Because conservatives said it, and Donald Trump. Well, how does that make it racist? Because we've said that they're racist. Yeah. So now they're at least admitting that they should have paid more attention. Going to roll a montage for you, and then end with a clip from the wonderful Brian Stelter show, who is everything. He's largely irrelevant, if not for the ties that he has with people who have influence. Nobody watches the show. Don't get me wrong.
Well, the dirt that he has. Yeah, somebody.
I know it feels like we're punching down. Because no one watches him or cares what he has to say. And of course, look, you don't want to attack someone in a marginalized community. It's his month. But it's important because of the ties and the influence he has because he's supported by an organization. But here's the media now saying, oh, we might have been wrong about that.
And for Trump, the question of the lab theory was less about finding the truth and more about finding a scapegoat, as he made racist comments deflecting from his own poor political performance and coincided with higher rates of hate crimes against Asian Americans.
Look, some things may be true even if Donald Trump said them. And there was, because Trump was saying
the reason you would assume they aren't true
because
he said them is because you tried to start the narrative
and because he was, making a frankly racist appeal, talking about Kung flu and the China virus. His notion that put forward that this may have, or that he said flatly that this came from that lab, was widely dismissed. But actually, there's some real reason. We don't know, by the way. We still don't know. We absolutely don't know. But now
I can tell by your stuttering.
We know it needs a serious inquiry.
We don't know the answer. And what
casual
happened
tie
was
day over at
a bunch
CNN.
of people started arguing that it likely escaped from this lab in Wuhan. And some of them were scientists whom you've never heard of necessarily and who made serious arguments. But some of them were conservative politicians like Senator Tom Cotton. And after Cotton started doing it, Donald Trump went doing it. And I think people made this mistake. I think a lot of people on the political left and a lot of people in the media made this mistake. They said, wow, if Tom Cotton is saying something, it can't be true. Or they assumed that.
Facebook says it will no longer remove posts that claim the virus was man-made. This seems to be related to this reevaluation of these theories.
Well, hope you have a good, proud, restful month, Mr. Stelter. Here's the thing. Not long ago, and they rerun this on CNN, by the way. Like, this is a greatest hits, like Don Cherry's Hockey's Greatest Hits. It's Brian Stelter, his little Don King, his little Johnny Cochran rhyme of freedom of speech is not freedom of reach. Sorry. Freedom of speech is not freedom of reach. See, Dad? Can I come home now? So here he is saying in January, and he reiterated it just last week, where he was advocating for people who are talking about these kinds of stories to be shadow banned, throttled, censored.
There is, up in the sky, information
Look in the
pollution.
background, by the way, Twitter.
And the polluters are trying to deflect blame.
Facebook.
Democrats win elections, and then Republicans say they are being silenced. But while some cry cancel culture, let me suggest a different way to think about this. A harm reduction model. The vast majority of people can agree that disinformation about, let's say, the pandemic is unhealthy. It's harmful. So how can that harm be reduced? Well, big tech platforms say they are removing lies about vaccines and stamping out "Stop the Steal" BS and QAnon
I look like
cult
the penguin,
content.
Oswald Cobblecock.
Do these private companies have too much power? Sure. Yeah, many people would say yes, of course they do. But reducing a liar's reach is not the same as censoring freedom of speech. Freedom of speech is different than freedom of reach. And algorithmic reach is part of the problem.
Okay, so first off, people talk about virtue signaling. That's actual physical signaling where he just has rotating banner. Facebook, please favor me. Twitter, please favor me. Google, please favor me. It's like someone drinking, like in Cobra with Stallone, where he's drinking Coors and then a Pepsi, right? It's free product placement to make sure that he can appease the big tech overlords. This is something that is, and we'll get to Fauci in a second, this is the biggest scandal of our time. And this is the perfect encapsulation of the unholy alliance of traditional media, of Democrats in government, and those in the big tech companies. Okay, so let's look at this. Let's walk through this. Donald Trump says, hey, we think it leaked in a lab. Many Americans, many scientists, right? Yeah. And then CNN, ABC, NBC, CBS, who now admittedly were wrong, say, that's racist. Try and tie it to an increase in anti-Asian hate crimes. And really, it's because Black Lives Matter activists are allowed to run unfettered, completely free in the streets. Over 80% of all physical assaults in the Bay Area, around San Francisco, are blacks against Asians, of all physical assaults, not all interracial assaults, of all physical assaults. This is something that is well known. They tried to tie it to Donald Trump, and they said, therefore, we need to throttle it. So everyone in big tech, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, who removed the sitting president, by the way, on the grounds that he peddled conspiracy theories, like Brian Stelter just said, misinformation about the pandemic, and you said it's important. It's not freedom of speech, it's freedom of reach. Big tech companies need to silence misinformation in the pandemic. You guys determined that it leaking from a lab, even though Chinese scientists have disappeared, have been hospitalized, have fled and tried to defect Asia, right? Well, you don't care about them. They've tried to defect from China. It's like the scene in the Bergdorf Goodman store in Moscow and the Husband. He's defecting! By the way, that was also Brian Stelter.
It's around. This should be the moment.
Moscow and the Husband. This is, but this is one of those things. So then it gets removed so that nobody can hear the truth. And they consider that a victory. Well, we'll admit when we're wrong. And here's why, if I have a gun to my head, I bet it originated from a lab. We don't know, but here's what it is. Why are they talking about it? It was already won. It would be like, let's say a week from now, let's say right before the Arizona audit finishes, them saying, well, okay, so there might have been some election fraud. You go, wait, hold on a second. Why are you bringing this up? You already deplatformed anyone who even mentioned it.
Right, yeah.
You already made it a part of policy. This is what happened. We need to remember this because liberals never hold themselves accountable. The timeline matters. They said it's a conspiracy. There's nothing to it. Donald Trump launched an investigation. Joe Biden, one of his first actions was canceling it.
Yeah.
The media, obviously, and these are the people who are part of the fact checkers, the Washington Post, the CNN, right? This is who Facebook and YouTube and Twitter, they use as their independent resources for fact checking. They said, great, we're going to eliminate any voice that says it could have originated from a lab. Why? Not because it's medical misinformation, because the official policy of YouTube is nothing that goes against the World Health Organization. Yeah. So it is gone. Now, let me ask you a genuine question. So first off, this is why I think it's in a lab, because now they're bringing it up. Why? You already won.
Yeah, exactly.
You got rid of everyone. They're trying to get out ahead of something.
Yep.
Not a doctor, not a virologist, but I am a student of human behavior. They're bringing it up and all saying, we made a mistake so that they can say, well, we admitted it that we got it wrong. No. And this comes way too late after an election. Look, let's go. I want to do a stream, a concept stream. You guys let me know. You leave me a chat. I thought we could do a 4 or 5 hour concept stream of an alternate reality election where we call the election where two changes occur. The Hunter Biden story wasn't snuffed by big tech, which we know 12% of Biden voters said they would have changed their votes. And at the time before the election that Donald Trump was saying, this came from a lab in China, we can't trust China, the American public knew it going into the election. If going into the election, they knew about the ties of Hunter Biden and Joe Biden in China, and they knew that this had originated from a lab, guess what? That election is very different. That election, the narrative is changed from Donald Trump mishandled the pandemic to a borderline declaration of war. So in that election, a declaration of war with effectively a bioweapon, even accidentally released from a lab in China that Donald Trump was sounding the alarm over and the media tried to silence, who do you think they vote for? For the same reason that John Kerry didn't have a shot in hell, even though people didn't like George Bush. You couldn't picture John Kerry as commander-in-chief at wartime. I genuinely believe that the entire election, the whole landscape changes if the truth had been revealed before the election.
Absolutely, dramatically. And I don't know how China comes back from this. If it does come out that they did, I mean, they don't even have to do a whole lot here for this to be really, really bad for them. They could just say, we covered it up. It was an accident. Let's go with that. We covered it up. Nothing.
And I think that's probably most likely.
Most likely. But the entire world suffered because of that. This isn't like other situations where we've had wars start because some country suffered from the decisions of a dictator or something like that. The entire world suffered because they lied and because the WHO didn't do their job, which now the administration thinks they're all of a sudden going to go do their job somehow in China, right? I don't know how China doesn't end up at war with other countries. Because it literally
the world, really.
Well, exactly. But I know there are tons of people that are going to be like, whatever, we can't do anything about it. But how do you not have the rest?
There's a lot we can do.
The lives, the countless
I agree.
jobs
And this
I don't think Joe Biden will lift a finger to do anything about it.
I think if you expose the cages, which still haven't been visited,
right?
That's a landslide victory. Just my opinion.
Oh man. Yeah. Well, think about it this way, too. Add one more thing to your topic there. If they knew that this was damaging to Donald Trump and played it out over the summer, instead of letting the economy reopen, and instead of letting old people be quarantined like we talked about.
I don't think
that's another part of the economy.
And and here's one thing too. Hey, Gerald, could you turn it down 1 degree over there? So I'm a little bit hot. I think this is what happened. I don't think everyone was in cahoots. I don't think Joe Biden and Kamala Harris were calling up the Prime Minister of China, okay? What I do think, it's like a parent who doesn't want to acknowledge when their kid is acting up, okay? Yeah. So China is a kid who acts up, right? This is an accident. It gets out of the lab,
damn teenagers.
But then Donald Trump is saying that. And the left is saying, this is bad if this gets out. And they're saying, oh, wait, hold on a second. I'm not saying, people are trying to say it's hypocritical to say, hey, this got out of a lab and Donald Trump knew about it, but he downplayed the pandemic. Pick one. No, actually, I think both. I think it emerged from a lab, and then the left was playing into it so hard, shutting everything down, that Donald Trump was trying to say, look, it's not as bad as people are saying. The cure is worse than the disease if we lock everything down.
Right.
And the left, it's like they don't want to acknowledge their kids acting out. They don't want to acknowledge that you were fooled with China.
Yeah.
They don't want to acknowledge that actually, even at this point, the lockdowns aren't working. And so they have to double down. And the reason they're allowed to do it without accountability is because of the Stelters and the Cuomos and the Jake Tappers, basically ABC, NBC, CBS, CNN, every single news outlet, and Facebook, Twitter, YouTube,
authoritative
Google.
sources.
Right. Well, and
as YouTube would say.
The root of the problem here with them is disinformation according to who? Assault rifle according to who?
Right.
Hate speech according to who? You put these like things out there, like it's clearly defined who the liars and who the truth tellers are, and you're the people that have lied. This should be that moment where CNN goes, oh, whoops! Like we are the people that we say should be shut out of the conversation.
Right.
I mean, we have become who we hate.
Yeah.
Come on.
Are we doing?
Brian Stelter, I've lived long enough to see myself become the villain.
I love destroying worlds.
Harvey Dent, Aaron Eckhart, yum.
He really is Dom DeLuise in History of the World.
Oh my
but
God.
Really what always showed me that there was something more is when the CDC came out and called racism the actual health epidemic.
Yeah.
And it's like, so you guys are all going to spin this instead of talking about the actual bug that people are catching?
Right.
That was crazy.
Oh, yeah, but this is the point. Science can be politicized. Let's move on to this, too, because, again, I think this is huge. If people haven't been... Look, Fauci, I'm done with that guy. Fauci should be in charge of nothing. Fauci is a risk assessment expert who maybe you have working in HR as some kind of counsel. That's all. Yeah. That person cannot be a leader. They should not be a leader, because a leader, a coach, a president has to be willing to take measured risks. There is no reason that this man should be involved with anything. Now, the stupidest thing that he's said in the past, before this next clip, is he had said, well, I don't advise on economic issues. That's not my area of expertise. Actually, you have, because you've devastated economies with your safety protocols, public safety protocols. But now he was asked about the Wuhan lab leak. And this man... he's either an absolute moron or he's corrupt, because this answer doesn't pass the basic test of anyone who actually reads the charter of the Communist Chinese Party. Here's what he said about Chinese scientists.
This hypothesis that it might have leaked out of a lab is something that you want to see if you can investigate that in a fair, unbiased, scientifically sound way.
Do you trust the scientists, your colleagues? You have to work with them in China. Do you trust them to be honest and forthcoming?
Well, I think you have to have a difference between the scientists in China and the Chinese government. I don't have much insight into the latter.
Then shut the hell up.
We should have this guy be in charge of everything.
In a collaborative manner with influenza, with bird flu, with a variety of other diseases. And our experience with the scientists have been that they have been of good faith. They're talented. Many of them have made major accomplishments in science, and that's the reason why we've worked.
Okay, look, he says we need to delineate between the scientists and the government. Look, the Chinese scientists, the Wuhan lab is funded by the Chinese government. Do you really think the Chinese scientists are free to speak their mind?
Come on.
We should be doing gain of function. I'm going to give Xiangping a piece of my mind. No, he's dead. And they sent his family the bill for the bullet. This guy doesn't understand. When we're talking about undue influence, people tried to say that Donald Trump was going to make big-ass money from hydroxychloroquine. Oh, yeah, that $4 a monthly prescription from Bayer, for crying out loud. You honestly believe, this is not conspiratorial, Fauci believes that Chinese scientists not only operate autonomously from but are allowed to operate autonomously from the Chinese government. This man should be in charge. This man has no insight. This man has no wisdom. Oh, I don't know much about the government. Oh, well, let me tell you about the government. They round you up. They round you up and kill you if you are found with Bibles. Yeah. They put you in forced labor camps if you're a Uyghur Muslim. Yeah. And up until recently, where they made it allowable up to 3 kids, they drowned. They encourage you to drown your baby daughters in a bathtub. Oh, and we've seen what happens if you protest against the Chinese government. They used to run over people with tanks. Now they just disappear indefinitely. This guy, This is the guy who wants us to. This guy is backpedaling.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love how he's just like, I don't really know much about the latter. And I know you've already made this point, but just think about that statement. I've worked with Chinese scientists before. Then you know exactly what their government will and will not allow them to do. Either that or you're not doing the job you say you're doing.
He's also a really shitty friend because he's acting like I'm colleagues with him. Really? Because some of your Chinese scientist colleagues, guess what? They blew the whistle and fled or disappeared.
Yeah, they've been disappearing.
How about that? How about you speak up? If these people are your esteemed colleagues, look, what do we have? We have February, obviously, Dr. Li Wenliang. She was a doctor at the Wuhan Central Hospital, died from COVID after being silenced by China. And you have Chinese virologist Dr. Li Meng, who said that COVID leaked from a lab. Then she fled to America.
Yeah.
Now, what do you think would happen if she fled to America and Fauci was waiting for her at customs? Oh, fuck!
Yeah, exactly. And
He's going to send me back!
And the Chinese government is so nice that she knew just saying that maybe it leaked out of a lab, an accident, which anybody could forgive and say, hey, we've got to fix this, she would be killed. She left the country because she knew just.
And the point is, Fauci is not even trusting the scientists.
No.
He is taking the word of the Communist Chinese Party, who funds the Wuhan lab, over the word of the actual objective scientists who tried to blow the whistle and left. And of course, the media and Democratic Party entirely suppressed. We care about human rights. People died. People died trying to warn us about the virus. At the same time, WHO was saying no human-to-human transmission, and the Chinese press secretary, whatever, international ambassador, I don't remember his role, was trying to blame American Marine for COVID. Hey, what about that? Well, listen, I'm not an expert on that issue. Well, Fauci, shouldn't you be?
Isn't he
Just
there
a little
as
bit.
the expert?
Isn't he there as the I'm not an expert on international relations. No, we're not. They said that the Wuhan virus, actually originated from American troops. Well, I'm not a military. We're not asking you to be a military commander. The spread of the virus. You said, I believe it occurs in nature, so this is your wheelhouse. Do you believe that China is telling the truth when they, on record, say it came from American soldiers? It's not my realm of, okay, let's lock you up indefinitely. I want to find you years from now with that stupid little pubic hair beard and lines on the wall like Count of Monte Cristo.
I really want to see them try to backpedal too on it wouldn't matter if we got a little bit more time, right? Because they said November now is when we have 3 people who are getting sick in the lab. That we've known that the entire time, by the way, because they blamed Donald Trump for being 2 weeks late. They said if we had just acted 2 weeks earlier, I really want to be able to play that clip right next to Fauci going, well, it doesn't really matter if it was November or January when we found out. I mean,
can
really
we see
the
timeline
virus
at the
was kind of
same
virus.
time?
It's like, oh my gosh, that's going to be bad.
And I want to go to your point after there, Dave, but we wouldn't, of course, we don't want to disparage China.
No.
So, I should say, without giving them a chance to respond. I want to disparage the government of China at every chance I get. So let's go now live to our Wuhan Institute for Virology correspondent, Dr. Choi Jr. for more details.
Hello, Stephen. I am here to inform you about some things about the Wuhan Institute of Virology. The Wuhan Institute of Virology is an independent laboratory, no way funded by a Chinese government. We are allowed to think freely and speak freely about things regarding the virus, and we are allowed to do our own independent research. From our research, we have seen that there is no indication that it is coming from a laboratory. It is not from a laboratory. We have seen that coming from American troops, that American troops have come here and spread the virus. Whether it is by deliberate or not, we are still investigating. President Xi Jinping, God Emperor, our glorious leader Xi Jinping has granted us many freedoms of freedom of speech that allow us to speak freely about what we are doing. And we believe that the Chinese have handled the pandemic way better than Americans have, and have done very well in order to deal with what is going on. I have never been forced to speak or say anything regarding the virus against my will. Yes.
Well, that settles it.
Seems legit.
It's clear.
You see the blink, the
I think
blinking
he's
there?
honest.
If we just go back and look at his blinking, help me.
Yeah. Yeah. He's going to unzip himself, and he's just Fauci.
Yeah.
I
got
in a
you.
racist
I got
suit.
you.
Yeah, he plays all the characters.
And then Fauci's going to unzip himself and be like Val Kilmer. You're like, oh,
again.
That's where you were. By the way, hey, people who are watching this on Rumble or Mug Club, this is also, you can also listen to it as a podcast on Apple, Android, right, Spotify. Just don't let us lose touch with you as we start streaming again to YouTube. The main thing is you can listen there for free, and of course, Mug Club, you get the premium content. It is Monday through Thursday, a live show. So just know you tune in on. You can go to the podcast, you can go to Mug Club. We will stream live on Rumble, I think, next week. I'm not sure. We'll be going back to YouTube, but all of these other avenues, Monday through Thursday at 10 a.m. Eastern, and we'll take your chat in a little bit. So I want to know though why you guys think that all of a sudden they're supporting the lab leak theory. Again, to me, it's just what changed. That's my question. What changed where you suppressed everybody, no one was even allowed to discuss the lab leak, and now everyone is saying, oh, I don't know. Again, you just have to ask yourself where the change occurred. And I'm telling you, they're trying to get out ahead of something. Just like, remember a long time ago when we didn't know if you had immunity for a long time?
Yeah.
You know, if you had permanent immunity, we were talking about this, and I said, you know what? Look, I'm not a doctor, but I'm willing to bet that you have long-term immunity if you've contracted and you've beaten coronavirus because they don't have any anecdotal evidence to prove otherwise, certainly not any empirical evidence. And we went through these sort of incidents of people who tested positive twice, and it was like as simple as a negative or a false positive the first time, or someone still had COVID who had never fully beaten it. There are effectively no examples.
At the time, it was like 3 people.
Right. At the time, it was 3 people, and it's still not really much more than that.
Yeah.
But they say, oh, the jury's still out. No, because if they had any examples, they would use it. Just like I've said, if they had any examples of someone just saying, here, officer, here's my ID, and they were crossing the street and they get blown away, well, they would use that. They don't. It's, he was hitting the cop in the face with a gun and broke his orbital.
He didn't do nothing.
Oh, he was aiming a gun at people in the park. Yeah. Oh, he was beating up a cop. Oh, she was stabbing somebody else. If they had proof of it, I'm just saying this is sort of me telling you where the puck's going to go. Of course, we now know that you have long-term immunity. And I'm going to bet, you can hold me to this, come on back, came from a lab.
But you'll need a booster shot. Somebody's got to make some money on those booster shots.
Every year.
Hydrochloroquine.
Free. Totally free.
All that hydrochloroquine.
Don't ask questions.
Money.
all that money. $4 generic.
Not to Bill Gates, who apparently invests in vaccine. He's fine.
Oh, and Dr. Fauci sits on the foundations, too.
So, does he? Does he?
There's all kinds of money exchanging hands there.
As thoroughly as he does COVID?
Yeah.
Somebody's like, we're going to look into the theory. It's like, what else were you doing for the last 14 months?
This guy also
said 2 places
that,
to look. One was a lab in Wuhan.
I was sitting in front of a camera. That's what I was doing.
This guy said that 20 million Americans would be dead of AIDS by 92. So
Fauci said that?
Yes.
Yeah, he did.
Yes, Fauci said that.
Wow.
Because straight people across the country act the same as homosexuals in San Francisco in the late 80s. And we wouldn't want to at all imply that your behavior could perhaps determine what viruses you contract, sexually transmitted viruses, diseases, not to mention effects on your immune system. We wouldn't want to do that because that would be hate speech. You learned everything you need to know about Fauci back in the 90s.
Yeah, nothing reminds me more of my childhood than Bruno Kirby in Cruisin'.
That's so sad.
All
Go
right.
ahead and Google that, everyone. And
everybody's like, what is
sorry
that?
about the swing. He's a good actor.
Let's go to Rand Paul and Fauci specifically, because this is something, you've seen these trends all the time, and then no one goes back to them. And I'm a big believer in accountability. And just going back to, well, hold on, you made a claim. You want us to move on like you didn't make that claim. Because everyone will go, look, here's Fauci shutting down Rand Paul. And at the time, the reason that people were saying Fauci was shutting down Rand Paul is because the media said so.
Yeah.
Because Fauci would say something and they say, well, if Fauci says it, it's right. And Rand Paul isn't Fauci. Therefore, he's wrong. Therefore, dunk, epic, thug life. But now we know empirically that Fauci was wrong on all of these points, and Rand Paul, also a doctor. Doctor has actually seen patients.
Yeah.
I know he's just an ophthalmologist. Fauci doesn't see any patients. He hasn't, I believe, in 40 years. Let's go through some of the arguments, because they've gotten into it quite a bit.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I find it interesting to just go back through the timeline. Okay. So, and he also had COVID-19. So, Paul, Rand Paul, doctor, actually had COVID-19 and actually used the data and consulted with scientists. Fauci said, mirror, mirror on the wall, who's right?
How many masks should I wear?
That just makes common sense.
Of course.
So let's look at this claim. Again, we go into our DeLorean. Back then, the media was saying, epic own of Rand Paul, where they argued, and Fauci said that lockdowns work.
Do you have any second thoughts? Are you willing to look at the data that countries that did very little actually have a lower death rate than the United States?
Yes, we have. I think in the beginning, we've done things based on the knowledge we had at the time. And hopefully, and I am, and my colleagues are humble enough and modest enough to realize that as new data comes, you make different recommendations. But I don't regret saying that the only way we could have really stopped the explosion of infection was by essentially, I want to say shutting down, I mean essentially having the physical separation and the kinds of recommendations
like you and girls in high school.
You've been a big fan of Cuomo and the shutdown in New York. You've lauded New York for their policy. New York had the highest death rate in the world. How could we possibly be jumping up and down and saying, "Oh, Governor Cuomo did a great job"? He had the worst death rate in the world.
That would seem, again, empirical. Fauci saying, I don't regret saying this, even though it negatively impacted everybody, but definitively, it didn't work. Michigan, New York, New Jersey, and of course, since then, they consider this own. If you go back to Twitter, if you could go back through your time machine, studies show that neither lockdowns nor masks have a significant effect in mitigating COVID-19. All the sources, again, are available at louderwithcrowder.com. Definitively, it doesn't. Now, I can't say that not having a lockdown helps people in fighting the virus. I'm not making a claim either way. You absolutely cannot make the claim that lockdowns work or that places that had harsher, more severe mask mandates, that they had lower rates of infection or death. You can't. It's just not something you can make.
Well, and he's also lying. He's saying, well, as new data comes out, we tend to... No, we've known that for 100 years about this. We've known that it's a bad idea to try to lock people down to control a virus because you'll never do it fully.
And do you know who knew that? They knew that.
Yes.
Because they said 15 days was just to prevent hospitals from being overrun. That's why they put a
cap on it.
They put a cap on it when they sold it because they're going to look, of course we wouldn't lock down people indefinitely.
Right.
We're just
That'd
talking
be
about
ridiculous.
hospitals here. We're going to have a ship pull into port, right? In New York, we're going to make sure that we have all the was it PPE?
Ventilators.
PPE that we need, the ventilators, all this stuff, which they said they didn't have enough of, and Donald Trump made sure they had more than any president could ever provide them with, and they didn't need them. And then we'll go back. And then a year and a half later, whoopsie!
Yeah.
Didn't we know about the mask thing with the potpourri-filled Beetlejuice bird ones that were used during the Spanish flu?
Yeah,
exactly.
So
the Spanish flu taught us all of this. The U.S. Army did a study. It's not like some random, journal did it and nobody believes them. It was the U.S. Army trying to figure out how we spread the virus across the world because that one was our fault.
Yes.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, we screwed up. You screwed up. You trusted us.
Yeah, they did. We helped you win the war, though.
There's no Tuskegee Airmen to test anything anymore.
Not anymore.
Oh, man.
I know. Now it all makes sense. He's just the physical distancing. Well, yeah, he's no stranger to physical distancing.
Yeah, nobody wants to touch him.
Yeah. He's the kind of guy who can, when he man spreads, it's almost like there's an invisible force field and people move. But there's never any contact. Like, my knees, repulsion fakes them out.
I'm never sick. People are always 6 feet away from me.
I'm never sick.
It's normal.
I walk around. It's almost like the Peanuts pig pen.
He does have a walking in there, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does a little bit.
Except it's not. He doesn't go up and down. And it's not entertaining.
No, he's not entertaining. That's true. All right, here's another one where you look at their arguments. Again, he owned Rand Paul because remember there was a time in this country where we all believed the narrative that was set forth by the teachers unions. Again, while we're talking about World Health Organization and big tech, the teachers unions and the Democrats, of course, this undue influence. We talk about dark money in politics. The teachers unions set out this narrative, and everyone accepted it. You couldn't speak out against it. It would be deplatformed. That kids in no way could go back to school.
Never.
We accepted that was fact. Why? Because the teachers union said it, and Fauci parroted it. And at this time, people thought that Fauci got the better of Rand Paul. But now we'll look back with accurate data tinted glasses. Here you go.
Much as I respect you, Dr. Fauci, I don't think you're the end all. I don't think you're the one person that gets to make a decision. We can listen to your advice, but there are people on the other side saying there's not going to be a surge and that we can safely open the economy, and the facts will bear this out. But if we keep kids out of school for another year, what's going to happen is the poor and underprivileged kids who don't have a parent that's able to teach them at home are not going to learn for a full year. And I think we ought to look at the Swedish model, and we ought to look at letting our kids get back to school. I think it's a huge mistake if we don't open the schools in the fall.
Senator Paul, thank you for your comments.
Danny Masterson looks really weathered since that.
And only voice in this is that you use the word we should be humble about what we don't know. And I think that falls under the fact that we don't know everything about this virus. And we really better be very careful, particularly when it comes to children. Because the more and more we learn, we're seeing things about what this virus can do that we didn't see from the studies in China or in Europe. For example, right now, children presenting with COVID-19, who actually have a very strange inflammatory syndrome, very similar to Kawasaki's syndrome. I think we better be careful if we are not cavalier in thinking that children are completely immune to the deleterious effects.
Okay, so a couple of things. First off, this is where the context matters.
Yeah.
Right? And on YouTube, they would get furious. Look, you can go to the NIH and you can search right now to see the number of complications that have taken place with the vaccine. I think the vaccine is by and large safe.
Yeah.
Last week, 14,000 hospitalizations, 47,000 doctor visits or urgent care visits. Okay?
Wow.
500-something miscarriages, several thousand people who've died from blood clots or died from cardiac complications.
Yeah.
Significantly more people. When they say the vaccine is entirely safe, look, it's mostly safe. Significantly more people have died and had complications as a result of the vaccine than kids who had these rare disorders that he's talking about as a result of the virus. So again, the context matters. Is the vaccine largely safe? Sure. Is it anywhere near as safe as other vaccines? No, not as far as side effects and reactions. You can look this up, search it on the NIH database. All the sources are available at loudercrowder.com. 14,000 hospitalizations last week. And you know that's really low.
Yeah.
Also, kids are not significantly affected by COVID. This is from the CDC, March 19th, 2021. They wrote, based on the data available, in-person learning in schools has not been associated with substantial community transmission. Though outbreaks do occur in school settings, multiple studies have shown that transmission within school settings is typically lower than, or at least similar to, lower than, if you read the study.
Right, yeah.
Levels of community transmission when prevention strategies are in place in schools.
Wow.
Less than 10% of COVID cases have been among kids aged 5 to 17. Kids are also not, according to the data. Remember, this is what Rand Paul said. I believe the data will bear this out.
Yeah.
Kids are not significant carriers of the virus either. So we know this now. Rand Paul was saying, look, we're starting to know this now, and there's an opportunity cost in keeping parents home, keeping kids home, if they don't have parents who can necessarily teach them. And he said, well, there's some data that says that there might be someone who could get hurt. Okay, could someone maybe get hurt from the vaccine? Why does that disappear all of a sudden? The data is clear. The CDC has admitted it's clear, but that wasn't before. They kept schools shut down for how long? A year? Over a year, depending on some states.
Some places are over a year.
And we know, again, people act as though, what's your life worth? How many lives can we save? How many lives do you lose by putting kids in isolation? We know statistically, this is collage, that there's increased anxiety and depression among kids, increased suicides, record numbers, lower grades, higher failure rates. So you can't just act like this exists in a vacuum, because Fauci's only area of expertise is the virus, but it affects the economy. It affects international relations. It affects what news we're allowed to consume if it's if it's propaganda from China and we're not allowed to speak out against it. This is the most toxic person who has ever set foot in the halls of our government, and there is no accountability.
Yeah, and he even at the last part there, he did what they've been doing this entire time. If we can just save one life. But he basically said that, saying they're not immune.
Is it yours?
Yeah, it depends on whose life. He said they're not immune from the deleterious effects from this. Well, nobody said they were. Nobody said that they were immune from anything happening bad to them in this age group. What we're saying is we know what happens when you keep poor kids out of school, and that was the one meal they could count on a day. We know what happens when you keep kids at home and you have an abusive father who lives in the house and drinks all day because he's out of work now. We know what happens.
I told you that in private.
Listen, listen, you were just having a good time, all right? It's okay. But we know what happens. And he didn't take that into account. Basically, he's throwing this argument out there, but they're not immune. We have to take care of them. You have to protect them. Well, take all of the data into account to protect them. Because I would be willing to bet he did more harm than good, for sure, for kids.
When I was in Michigan,
I think I just watched him do it.
Yeah.
Yes, we just watched him do it in real time.
In short clips.
Tell us what to do. You don't have to think about it, dude.
It's just,
you got to think about it.
You got to think about it, bro. Well, apparently Fauci is banking on that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And teachers' unions just want money. When will you get that through your thick skulls? It's not the best third grade teacher that you had. That's not the
more
person
money.
we're
If throwing more money at public education worked, Washington D.C. would have the best schools in the country.
They would, but they want more money, and they know they will get more money when they're like, "Well,
that's
we have
why
to
I hate
do
this misnomer. People say compassionate conservatism.
Yeah.
No. Conservatism is already compassionate. I don't believe in giving more money to schools because I believe that you're giving it to corrupt teachers or to corrupt bureaucrats who head the teachers unions, and it's not going to help students. I want to create a system where we directly benefit students and it can be quantified. That's why I'm already compassionate. I don't need, when people say I'm a compassionate conservative, it usually means that they're a Christian and they want to find more responsible ways to spend us into oblivion. Nope.
Right, exactly. And teachers, you want that too? Okay, overthrow your unions. Done.
Right.
Tomorrow. You want better results for yourself, pay, advancement? You want your kids to learn more? Throw your teachers' unions out. Do it.
Have the school open if you want more money.
Well, that's another option.
That's a start.
It's like going to a business and be like, I want a sandwich. I don't know. I left money at the door. I mean, nothing happened. How is Subway still
Then it told
open,
me to double mask and said I'd have to pay 3 times the price if I'm a white guy.
I know, right?
Wow, yeah.
That's true. I went to Yardale where I had a 4.0 grade average.
I have my vaccine card. I also have my ally card. I should get a discount.
Yes, that's right in my wallet.
Yeah. It's that month, right? It's the month where the ally card comes out.
Yeah, the I hate my flesh month.
Just think of how much our country has changed.
Oh, man.
Allies versus the axis of evil.
Yeah.
Right? You have the Allies. You have the Americans. You have the Brits. You have Canada fighting the people who want to eradicate Jews. And you look at the Japanese, the imperialists who believed, well, again, they wanted to eradicate anyone who was Japanese, which is always funny to me because the Japanese believed they were a superior race. So the Aryans, one of them has to be right and one of them has to be wrong because there's a contrast there. But those were the Allies.
Yeah.
Today, the ally is like, hey, you have fun with that cock.
It's
He's an ally.
I'm such a child.
He's an ally.
Right, though.
He's a cock.
He did say he was right, though, about it. Huh?
Can you imagine, too, in World War II? Just imagine those people going into dog fights, and it's a woman. She's like, hold on, the baby's kicking. I need to adjust my maternity suit. Ooh, 7 months, it's getting close.
Yeah.
This is what we're doing in the United States military. Allies, World War II, allies today. This is what happens when you have people who've never had a war to fight.
Yeah.
Well, they have to invent them, and they have to pretend they're virtuous. That's what virtue signaling is.
Yeah.
And isn't it strange that the world's been terrible for exactly the amount of time I've known who Dr. Fauci is?
It is weird.
Yeah, it's weird. It's like there's a connection.
It's almost,
Maybe.
Correlation doesn't equal causation, but we'll allow this exception. I'm
there
pretty
ever
sure.
was a case.
Yeah. The totality of the data would suggest that Fauci is a piece of shit. So,
right here.
Here's another one they argued about. Even if you'd been vaccinated,
Yeah.
or you've already had COVID, which Rand Paul has, you still needed to wear a mask. This was one that everyone was talking about. Look at Fauci shut down a fake ophthalmologist who's not and then we'll rewind it with some accountability. With stats.
You've been vaccinated and you parade around in 2 masks for show.
No.
You can't get it again. There's virtually 0% chance you're going to get it, and yet you're telling people that have had the vaccine, who have immunity. You're defying everything we know about immunity by telling people to wear a mask who've been vaccinated. No. Instead, you should be saying there is no science to say we're going to have a problem from the large number of people we've vaccinated. You want to get rid of vaccine hesitancy?
I'm choking on my many masks.
After they get the vaccine. You want people to get the vaccine? Give them a reward instead of telling them that the nanny state's going to be there for 3 more years and you got to wear a mask forever. People don't want to hear it. There's no science behind it.
Well, let me just state for the record that masks are not theater. Masks are protective. And we
have immunity there, theater. If you already have immunity,
thanks, Constable
you're wearing a
Fauci.
Mask to give
Thanks,
comfort
Hall
to
Monitor
others.
Fauci.
You're not wearing a mask because of any science.
I totally disagree with you.
This is him and I totally disagree with you, okay? To be clear, that is the recycle bin, and that is actually trash. You disposed of your refuse in the wrong. This is why I am Hall Monitor and you are not. Mrs. Naisworth, hold on, you right there. Mrs. Naisworth, they're going to kick my ass now. She's not here because even she doesn't like you. Nobody likes you. Anthony Fauci, look at that. They're not theater. He's so indignant. Hold on a second. Let's go to the next clip. Not that long after it, where basically Fauci admitted theater.
I'm a physician and a healthcare provider. I am now much more comfortable in people seeing me indoors without a mask. I mean, before the CDC made the recommendation change, I didn't want to look like I was giving mixed signals. But being a fully vaccinated person, the chances of my
he heard it on the news
in an indoor setting is extremely low. And that's the reason why in indoor settings now, I feel comfortable about not wearing a mask because I'm fully vaccinated.
Hold on a second. Is that Fauci or is that Rand Paul dubbing him? He's saying exactly what Rand Paul.
Right.
Only Rand Paul in his Jeff Spicoli voice. The chances are extremely low, and there's no science behind it. You don't need to wear your mask. Those guys are fags. This is. And now he's saying the exact same thing, like he thought of it.
Yeah, right. And this
Do you
was.
think you wore 2 hall monitor belts?
Yeah, exactly.
One was more of a girdle.
Yeah, and this was, I believe, less than 7 days later. That he's saying that. Well, now I've become more comfortable.
Notes.
In
he's
less than a week, you got more comfortable. What changed?
They're not theater. Oh, they are? All right.
They're theater. All right, but it's good.
I was confused by the word theater. I thought it was theater with the ER, not RE. And so I dismissed everything he said out of hand with no scientific basis. Yes, I did. I wore 2 sashes as hall monitor. And one was, of course, that I was in my phase of Dita Von Teese.
The whole premise of their argument, too, is stupid. It's saying, I don't want to be a health professional out there telling people not to wear a mask indoors. No, that's the perfect opportunity for them to go, well, wait, he doesn't have a mask on. Why? Well, he's been vaccinated. I want to be able to not wear a mask, too, so I'll get vaccinated. That would be like an easy
example.
sell. It starts a conversation.
But they're like, shut up. Shut up and do as you're told.
I am your God.
Just says bullshit.
Come on.
Oh, by the way, another recent study found that COVID immunity could last for life, just like every other major virus.
Crazy.
At least lasts longer than. Well, here's the thing. You know that it lasts at least a year and a half because people haven't got. So we know at least that long.
So far, so good.
And now the messaging, because they have to make sure that you line up for your booster shots, is, well, we know the vaccine lasts at least 6 months. Okay. All right. I'm going to take my chances.
So is that a vaccine?
Gonna roll the dice there.
Is that really what a vaccine?
Well, no, this
like
is not a
6 month
vaccine.
pass?
People don't understand. This is not a vaccine in what we know.
Doesn't a cold just go away for that long?
Yeah.
All right, and here's another
for. It's just so
idiots. It's for idiots.
You know what?
But listen, Trump's racist. That's what
Trump is racist.
That's what really matters.
Trump is racist, and the American dream is dead, and blah 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 blah. We're going to spend $11 trillion before 2031. More money, please. More money, please.
Let's keep printing it until we're worth nothing.
I just. Why did you sound like Fat Albert? You sound, or the mush mouth with the stuffy nose. Yeah, I just.
That's what they are to me.
I just wish I could use Democrat negotiate when I go into finance my house. We're going to give you a 3% mortgage. 1%. No, it's going to be 1%. No, we can't. 1%. All right.
Yeah, well, good news. There's no risk of the housing market collapsing.
Yeah, right. None.
Or this bubble popping. No
There's
risk
none. As a matter of fact, let me draw your attention to the actual bubble machine that we have. Bubbles. Isn't that fun?
These bubbles wear masks.
Yeah, look. Yeah. It was very expensive for us to engineer that. It took a $4 billion grant. Worth every penny, I'd say. The bubbles are happy with the masks.
Your grandpa and you can go and float in it to the great class elevator.
Yeah. Have you ever seen a bubble wearing a mask down by the bay? No one remembers that song?
I don't.
Down by the bay, down by the bay, down by the bay, where the watermelons grow, where the watermelons grow.
I think it's a racist song. I'm just kidding.
Oh, no.
I dare not go in. Or if I do, my mother will say, have you ever seen a llama wearing pajamas? Down by, no, but I saw a bubble with a mask. Down by the bay. Please, everyone pay attention to this. No one pay attention to everything I've said in the last 4 months.
Oh, my God.
If they had a llama in pajamas, I'd agree with everything.
I would sign up right away.
I would be like, this Fauci guy just rode in on a llama with pajamas. I'm wearing a mask.
It's a cult.
All right. Here's the other one that just happened. I want to say this was earlier, maybe 2 weeks ago. This was the one where everyone was saying, oh, look, because Fauci is so authoritative. And look, it's really easy to be authoritative when you know no one is going to fact check you.
Yeah.
When you know no one is going to say, okay, that's a lie. So everyone felt free to say, ooh, dunk on Rand, even though this was an outright lie where he said, Dr. Fauci said that the NIH never funded the Wuhan lab.
Dr. Fauci, do you still support funding of the NIH funding of the lab in Wuhan?
Senator Paul, with all due respect, you are entirely and completely incorrect.
Boom!
That the NIH has
Fauci.
not ever and does not now fund gain-of-function research in the Wuhan Institute.
Government scientists like yourself who favor gain-of-function research.
I don't favor gain-of-function research in China. You are saying things that are not correct.
Actually, they're very correct. How do I know? because not long after that, you admitted to it, but you never thought but your excuse is you never thought the Chinese would lie. Oh. You've heard that one.
How do you know they didn't lie to you and use the money for gain-of-function research anyway?
Well, we've seen the results of the experiments that were done and that were published.
Sure have.
And that the viruses that they studied are on public databases now. So none of that was gain of function. So
how do you know they didn't do the research and not put it on their website?
Yeah.
There's no way of guaranteeing that.
So you don't think the Chinese would lie to you? You're dumb.
Well, when you say the Chinese are a rather broad group. I know the scientists that we've dealt with have been trustworthy.
Mm-hmm. You think all the scientists...
The ones who disappeared, the ones who left, or the ones who died in the hospitals?
In terms of the origin of the Wuhan virus and not been influenced by the Communist Party of China, do you?
I don't have enough insight into the Communist Party in China to know the interactions between them and the scientists, sir.
Guess what? You should! You should!
Jesus. I mean,
you work for the CDC and the NIH! You have to know where the checks are coming from! In case people don't believe me, go to louderwithkreider.com because maybe I'm selling you tall tales. The Wuhan Lab of Virology is directly funded by the State Council of the People's Republic of China, which of course is funded by the CCP. How can this guy sit there? Look. From all the research that they gave to me, I didn't see them do that. Oh, really? How are you sure that they gave you everything, all the research? I'm not an expert in this. I'm not a human lie detector. No, you're retarded. Look, this is such a stupid person.
Yeah.
All of his reasoning is you looked through the other clips based on the data available from China.
Okay.
Based on that, I don't think that they were doing gain of function because they didn't tell me about it. That's it? That's your standard? Well, look, I'm going to ask you to sort of go a little Socratic method here. Hopefully, since you're in charge of everything and you've decimated economies, you're able to use the basic Socratic method, all right? Consider yourself Blue's Clues here, okay? All right. Put your hat on, Fauci. Hey, the Wuhan Lab, the Wuhan Virology Institute, is funded by who? I don't know. I'm not an expert. No, that's not the answer. They're funded by the State Council of the People's Republic of China. Hey, who are they funded by? I don't know. They're funded by the Communist Chinese government. Hey, what happened to these doctors? They died or got put in a crematorium. What do you think happened? I'm not an expert. You're an idiot. We should kill you. Not for real.
No, of course.
That's what China would do.
We should terminate you from all gainful employment. I'm not an expert in the realm of, shouldn't you know?
But
if it's all funded by a communist Chinese government, at what point do we say that's not an excuse for someone who's supposed to be an intellectual?
Right. And they pinky swore.
They're very trustworthy. The checks clear every time.
Exactly. But here's one positive thing about
Donald Trump.
And
they make great bat soup.
Oh, so good.
It's so good. It's
wonderful
delicious
stuff. The best thing about Donald Trump is that people have started to pick up on how to sound like him a little bit. And when he said that, doctors like you who support gain-of-function research, when he said the question to Fauci after he had just denied it, I was like, I love it. That's fantastic.
Well, here's the thing. So there were two lies there. He tried to say that the United States in no way funded gain-of-function research. It's like when they say, well, America doesn't fund abortions, but if they have federal taxpayer dollars
fungible,
go to Planned Parenthood, of course they do. They can't provide mammograms.
Right.
So he lied about that, saying, no, there was no and I mean this. You either believe that he's so stupid, and I know that most of you don't believe that because you considered him an authority. For crying out loud, Governor Whitmer had a pillow of him like a 92 wrestling buddy.
No, they still sell those.
Yeah, I know. By the way, you know, in 10 years' time, the ticking time bomb, someone flips a switch and just scarabs come out of it and crawl into your skull. If you are at home with a Fauci pillow, we're never going to be friends. So he lied about the funding.
I bought two. I felt that he wasn't screwing me hard enough.
Do you know, like those, what is it, those Instagram videos? Remember where the black guys were always humping the couch?
Yeah.
It's just a Fauci pillow.
Oh.
Remember that trend? Everyone remembers that.
I do. Thank God.
Yes. It was a mating dance.
Oh.
So he lied about saying, well, none of the money went to gain of function.
Yeah.
Well, it does seem like there was gain of function going on there. So that's a lie. Then he also said, he was also mad saying, I have never supported it. Oh, wait. Let's go to the tail of the tape here, because he previously wrote that he supported gain-of-function research. What do we have? Argued the benefits outweighed the possibility of a pandemic. 2012. This is published on PubMed. Go to loudwithcrowder.com, you can read it. It is in an unlikely but conceivable turn of events, what if that scientists becomes infected with the virus, which leads to an outbreak and ultimately triggers a pandemic? Scientists working in this field might say, as indeed I have said, that the benefits of such experiments, gain of function, and the resulting knowledge outweigh the risks.
Ooh. Wow.
When can this man be hauled into a court for treason?
Yeah.
I got a Blaze chat that is actually asking that same thing. Andrew Perry, should Fauci be charged with perjury? And if so, why hasn't he yet? Do you think he will at some point?
It's like Mayor Giuliani said. They'll say, well, look, you said no gain of function. But then he'll say, yeah, but then I did say gain of function.
Right.
Like, look, you said that masks weren't and people should not wear masks. Yeah, but then I said they should wear masks. Look, you said that you didn't have long-term immunity. Yeah, but then I said they did. See, what you fail to realize is that I have no character whatsoever, and being so devoid of moral fiber, I feel no inner conflict in taking every position on every issue just so I can't be held accountable. I basically might as well say nothing.
I backpedaled on everything that I said.
Yeah.
I think it'd be better if he did say nothing. That would be fantastic.
Oh, that'd be wonderful.
Yeah, it would be, but the problem is everyone's trusted him all the way. We trusted
almost
Fauci.
Did when he wore 5 masks for a weekend.
Everyone trusted Fauci.
It hurt my ears.
And then Fauci trusted the Chinese.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, no, we're not doing gain of function. Good enough for me.
It's not even that he said it like that. Obviously, he's not just supporting gain of function. He thinks it's a good thing.
Yeah.
So why would he say, well, we're not funding it at all? Look, you can support gain of function. That's fine. Go for it. But you have to understand that there are risks. And
no, I don't think you can. It's been banned. It was illegal.
Well, no. What they say about trying to figure out gain of function is to figure out how new viruses will get into humans and try to get ahead of them. Right. So if that's your goal and you're not just trying to make a super virus out of it, fine. That's what it's fallen under for a long time. Just say it.
I'm totally against it because of human nature, but I understand your point.
Yeah.
Hey, by the way, smash that Rumble button. Those of you who are watching on Rumble, this is obviously archived on Rumble. We can't stream live, but smash it like that angry
Turn it down. Look,
Hulk.
There you go.
That's actually not a Hulk hand. It's just one of our interns with gangrene. And
it's a problem. It's a problem.
Right now, at Quarter Black, it was his birthday, but he was going to Tennessee, and so we're celebrating his birthday. We have everyone can sing "For He's a Jolly Good Fellow," "For He's a Jolly Good Fellow," "For He's a Jolly Good Negro,"
fellow,
which nobody can deny. And here you go, because that was relevant. I didn't just say that out of the blue.
No,
because Smooth Manny, the Colombian, has a card.
So we wanted to get you a birthday card, but then we found an even better card that thanks you for being black.
Yes, this is an actual card.
So we got it at Target, and it says "Black, strong, proud, brown, loud, black, black."
Yeah. Well, let him read the inside. Let him read the inside. Yeah, and show it to the camera.
And it says Angela because Angela bought it, but I scratched out her name and I wrote from me.
I mean, she white anyway, so.
Yeah, she white. She white as hell.
There you go. You can read that. You're out here embracing our history, our heritage, our melanin, and showing the world exactly what black excellence looks like.
Wow.
Yeah, keep doing your thing.
Happy birthday.
That's right.
Thank you. Happy birthday.
So much.
Thank you, Smooth Manny.
Is that what they wrote in the mahogany card?
That is actually what it says.
It's written in melanin.
I used to do a joke on stage about that.
About giving someone a card for being black?
No, that they have mahogany cards.
Look, it's real.
Wow, this is very thorough.
I'm telling you, it's written in melanin. That's how you get the pigment.
Very thorough.
It's the cover of the movie Chirac.
Yeah, that's true.
Nobody? All right. Well, Quarter Black, no.
What was that?
Oh, sorry, my mic was off. I have a breaking update for you. Governor Ron DeSantis signs a bill that would ban transgender students from participating in girls' youth sports.
Oh, well, look, that used to be called men.
I'll take that as a birthday gift.
Yeah.
Right. Oh,
hey, be an ally.
Wait, what happened? So
they're not going to allow them to compete.
Oh,
yeah.
How horrible.
Yeah, and by the way, this is important for people to note. I'm going to do a segment on this tomorrow. Laurel Hubbard is going to be allowed to compete at the Female Olympics. The man from New Zealand, who was a man up until his late 30s.
Oh.
But I realized I thought there was a typo. The International Olympic Committee, the amount of testosterone, because it's done by liters as opposed to deciliters, they actually are allowing him for as long as for only 1 year. He gets his testosterone levels to only 5 times the amount of a normal one.
Oh, well,
because at first I thought I was reading it the way you would read a standard, but it's an international measurement.
Yeah.
So I actually have a doctor right now doing the math. But basically, the testosterone levels could be the equivalent to what you might know in America as 250 to 280. Most women are average at about 20. Men are like 300 to 1,000. So in other words, for any amount of steroids they want to use before the remaining year, according to the International Olympic Committee, and then you can only have 5 times the levels of testosterone for women. No unfair advantage.
That's insane.
Wow.
So we'll do a whole segment going through the numbers because it's a little math heavy, but people need to understand that this is not.
That's crazy.
Why don't they just measure dicks?
Like
Unfortunately, they can do that in the women's cross country now.
It's yeah, that's true. They're like, well, hers is pretty big. What about his?
Let's do this really quickly. No.
Insane. We are insane.
Let's do this really quickly, and then we'll do the American Dream segment. We'll do that there for Mug Club. But right now, we want to do who did it better. So look, this is something that Dave and I have talked about, which bothers me, is you get everyone on the right and on the left. If they disagree with someone politically, they just say, well, they're just not funny. And it's like, look, hold on a second. That's not, you can't just do that. For example, the new Bo Burnham special. First half, really funny. Second half, self-important crap. It's unwatchable.
Oh, man.
But he's super far left. But he does it in a funny way. Jon Stewart, funny, right?
Very.
Kathleen Madigan, one of my favorite female comedians of all time. She's basically a political activist, but she would be considered a centrist today. We need to understand something with comedy. There are sort of what we talk about guardrails. I've talked about this in the past, where people say comedy is subjective. Like any art, a good portion of it is. But you do have one side here, okay? So your right, my left. I'm going for you guys. That's objectively funny. Meaning you may not like it, but objectively, Richard Pryor's funny. Objectively, Dave Chappelle is funny. Objectively, Dennis Miller's funny. Objectively, Jon Stewart is funny. You have to say that because this is someone who's made a career off of it, is a prolific writer, performer. And then you have off of this guardrail, objectively unfunny. That would be the people, for example, who've been open micers their entire life, who were never paid for comedy, right?
Correct.
Clearly, no one finds these people funny, and clearly the audience has spoken, and this is funny. And then there's a wide swath in between, which is subjective. That's where you would put... I wouldn't even say. I would say objectively Jerry Seinfeld is funny, and I would say objectively people like Bill Burr or your Nick DePaulis. But that's maybe where you would put people like Amy Schumer. That's subjective. Sarah Silverman, more subjective. Maybe Joe Rogan, more in other words, people who a certain portion of America or of the international community find funny, and some people don't. And that is true. But there are guardrails, objectively funny and objectively unfunny. And I want to make the argument that without a doubt, Lily Singh, Samantha Bee, objectively unfunny. Trevor Noah, objectively unfunny.
Yeah.
And Stephen Colbert was in the objectively funny category.
Yeah,
he was.
Used to be,
Comedy Central.
Oh, yes. When he had his show, he was objectively funny.
But he leapfrogged the wide swath of subjective comedy to objectively unfunny. And I think we have a perfect example as to why. So we did a sketch, John Cena's apology to China, last week. And then a day and a half, 2 days later, Stephen Colbert and his 47 writing staff did the exact same sketch. So I want you to watch ours, and then I want to put them side by side, accountability. Then I will force you to watch Colbert's. This is what we ran last week when the John Cena story broke.
你好，中国，就是叫西娜。我必须说，现在，在《速度与激情》中，我做很多采访，很多，所以在一个采访，我有一个错误，所有人问我，如果我可以用中文，速度与激情主人给我很多资讯 information，所以很多采访，很多 information，我有一个错误，我必须说现在就是很重要，我爱更尊重中国跟中国人，我很抱歉对我的错误，对不起，我很抱歉，你必须了解，我很爱，很尊重中国跟中国人。
Okay. I still think it's really funny.
It's very funny.
It holds up.
And I guarantee we wrote it way faster than the other.
And because that's one of the, since Dave has been here, I'm not having to write everything like I used to. Where Dave, I kind of came up like, hey, how about this idea? And we worked together. And that'll come back to why corporate comedy is objectively unfunny now. Because comedy can't be done by committee.
I was even thinking that too. I don't know how you can survive as a corporate comic. That doesn't make sense.
But now we go to Stephen Colbert's example. Again, this happened, he was 2 days later, so he has way more staff. His salary is more than our entire budget, significantly, just his salary. Not to mention his EP salary, not to mention all of his writers. This is the best they could come up with 2 days after the story broke.
我必须说，现在就是很重要。我爱更尊重中国更中国人。
A Late Show has acquired the full apology.
你好，中国，这是赵西呢。我做很多采访，很多。所以在一个采访，我有一个错误。所有人问我，如果我可以用中文，速度与激情就有人给我，所以很多采访，很多我有一个错误，我必须说，现在就是很重要。我爱更尊重中国更中国人。Can you believe this？ 中国更中国人，不好意思，再见。
It's a late show.
Okay.
That's terrible.
Now, look, and I know everyone will just say this because I obviously think that ours is funnier. But
it is.
Let me explain. First off, it's lazy technically. They didn't even format it properly.
Yeah,
they didn't put in a lower third like we did to actually make it look like news.
Yeah.
They didn't use the right captioning. They didn't time the subtitles correctly. This is lazy union workers. Now, here's what's also important too with comedy. And Dave obviously can. I want you to chime in here as often as you can.
Yeah, I'm just upset about what I saw.
Yeah, very upset.
The Dolly Slammer.
Yeah. By the way, what Dave just said was funnier than their entire skit.
No, exactly.
That was unsettling and just not funny at all.
It helps to have good comedic writers.
Yeah,
right?
Apparently not.
Well, no, and the issue here is it's very different. You and I sit, or sometimes you and I sit down, or like Pantelis, right? We'll sit down, or once upon a time, Audio Wade would kind of sit down. With funny people.
Yes.
Okay. Now, the problem becomes, first off, you're writing as a team. You need to write as a team comedically, especially if you're writing sketch. But even you have, people who work on someone's stand-up special. For example, like Wanda Sykes doesn't write her stand-up. It's usually as a team of people writing it. And what do is they say, we need to write this as a team in the voice of Wanda Sykes. Or I'm not singling her out, but a lot of comedians. But that's a very clear example of this is a Wanda Sykes joke. So you need to write as a team, and that goal needs to be, given the subject matter, to make it as funny as possible. Now, the issue is, when you have a team of people who do not have the same goal, and like Tokunawan said, who work in this industry, they say, we need a certain amount of gays who are hired, we need a certain amount of women who are hired, we need a certain amount of women of color who are hired. They're not hired based on comedic ability right now. Yeah. We know that for a fact. Why? Because they've bragged about it. Seth Meyers has bragged about it. Lily Singh has bragged about it. And now you have a room full of people who are more concerned with their identity and what is considered an affront to that identity than what is funny. And so it's, how about, I can't say that. How about that? Oh, can't say that. How about, we can't say that the Chinese have small hands. Oh, what about, you can't say that about Hyundai because they're a sponsor. What about, we don't have the rights to talk about Grumman. Say, what about I like Chinese but not all Chinese? I'm a Chinese writer. And the point is you just can't get anything done when you try and do comedy by committee, and the goal isn't just comedy.
Well, and the goal is to keep your job as opposed to make somebody laugh. Like, comedy should feel dangerous.
Right.
Like, there's a story about when Catherine O'Hara joined Saturday Night Live, and she ended up not staying because Mike O'Donoghue basically went up and said, comedy is supposed to be dangerous, and like wrote on this chalkboard, dangerous. He's like, that's what this is for. This is shit. We need to be pushing the envelope. We're on a late night show. It's the 70s. And that scared her to the point that she left.
Wow, that's surprising.
They need to do that again.
Oh, and I love Catherine O'Hara.
But that surprised me. It doesn't surprise me. It surprised me that she was intimidated and left.
She was. And I mean, she's the one that said it in the book Live from New York.
Right.
She's like, Michael O'Donoghue scared the crap out of me. And not that he was the best, but the reality is you have to do something where you are pushing the envelope. If you're sitting in a room of people that were hired for no other reason than ethnicity, you will never come up with anything that's actually funny because you're just afraid.
Right.
And fear in comedy doesn't work. No, it has to be fearless to work.
And especially right now, you have to be concerned about who you're going to have to apologize to.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
At every single joke. And we don't, look, what we wrote here is not particularly offensive, and it wasn't even political. But we weren't worried about who was offended. We were saying, when we make edits here, it's how do we make it as funny as possible?
Yeah.
When you do it by committee, and people come from a generation that specifically say the most important thing in my life, the most important character attribute is my racial identity or gender identity, now half of the material is off the table.
Yeah, absolutely. And why did they pick Tibet? Like they went down their list of
nothing like being timely.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, nobody cares about them. They're always complaining Tibet. And I'm like, did anybody find that funny at all?
No, it was for the slam down joke.
Like, you're not going to offend them either because they're all Buddhist. You're just going to offend other people for them.
They're like, oh, we light ourselves on fire when we get pissed. Yeah, we're really worried about your comedy show.
You're going to get a lot of angry letters from women with custom yoga mats.
Yes, that's the only people. The Dalai Lama himself is like, oh, that wasn't funny.
Yeah.
Is that supposed to be me? Oh.
Is that just because you're detached? And no, objectively, that was not funny.
No. I know many things as the Dalai Lama, but I wish that my brain was totally empty right now.
Well, and this is something
without that knowledge.
Look, the truth is, if you are going to pick in the United States the room full of the funniest people possible, you are going to have mostly white men and a lot of black men and black women, I would say.
Yeah.
Now, why? Because as a demographic, white men make up most of the country. If you go to an open mic, you have a much deeper talent pool, and so it's more competitive. Also, I would say, because a lot of black people, obviously some of the best comedians ever are black, and the reason for that is because culturally, they have a culture just like, let's look at the Irish, Italians, Jews, French Canadians, black people. These are they're constants in comedy.
They're over the top.
And all of them come from a culture of breaking balls
and storytelling.
Yes, storytelling and breaking balls. Right? If you're around Jewish people, or have you ever been to a Jewish dinner with it's constant either complaining or making. Have you ever been to an Italian friend's house? My friend who's Sicilian, all it is just go fuck yourself all night long. Right? They're busting each other's chops. Have you ever hung out in a neighborhood? Let's say you go to South Dallas. Let's say you go to the area of Detroit. All they're doing is making fun of each other. Look at the trash talk when they're throwing dice. Read any book from Joe Louis, Joe Frazier, Mike Tyson. Read these books from these athletes or from these comedians. They talk about being raised in a culture where this is something that's valued, and men specifically, because evolutionarily we have to be funny to be attractive. Women, you don't need to be funny. It doesn't matter to us. Now, let's flip that. When you say we need to have X women from, like Lily Singh, Indian women, Asian women, I know Indian or Asian, but Asian women, Middle Eastern women. Look, these aren't cultures that value irreverence. These are cultures that deeply value submission and respect to your elders and to family members. Try and bust someone's chops in a Japanese family.
Well, yeah, education.
They'll cry.
Yeah. Education is far more important than comedy. And to get into comedy, you kind of don't care about education.
Right.
Yeah.
Especially when you're young, because you're anti the system.
Right.
They're completely follow this.
Right.
We need more geisha writers.
I mean, and I just say it's a perfect example where people no, I'm saying there should be mostly men. And obviously, because we're in the United States, a lot of white guys. And I think you would have a higher percentage of black guys in that writing room than you would as a percentage of the population.
Yeah.
Because by and large, if you go to a comedy club and you watch even open micers, black guys on average are funnier. Why? Just go hang out in a black neighborhood. They're funnier. It's a part of their culture. The guy, you're either tough enough, good in an athletic endeavor, good enough in sometimes, you can talk about music, you can talk about hip. It's the same reason that they
funny as hell.
Or funny as hell. It's the same reason they say, they say that Ben Carson wasn't black. Why? Because he was ROTC and the first guy to separate conjoined twins. You try selling that at a dice table. But coming out with a great. Have you looked at battle rap history? It translates to comedy.
Yeah.
But the problem now is when you look at these writers' rooms, they are not all singularly focused on one goal, which is to make something funny. And so you end up with Stephen Colbert.
Yeah.
You end up with Trevor Noah. And you wonder, and this is something too, I will say, I'm worried because right now I would say comedy got really, really, really good.
Yes.
Through I would also say through the 90s. And now you're going through a development phase where you either have comedy by committee, corporate woke comedy, because that's the only kind of comedy that's allowed right now, in mainstream outlets.
Right. Or comedy that's ripped off of YouTube for weird reasons.
Right, yes, comedy. Or you have comedians who don't have a writing team at all.
Right.
Right? So you don't have that sort of but you don't have what you used to have, which is maybe 4 or 5 writers in a room creating like SCTV or stuff.
Well, really, Chappelle's show was a lot of that. He didn't have 47 writers. He had a small round table.
There's no way you could do that.
And produce the best because they were all, again, look at how irreverent the sketches were. Because when you get 6 funny people in a room, there's going to be an element of danger.
And it used to be you would get 26 funny people in a room, and so you had magic. And I don't know that that'll ever happen again. So you're just going to have to accept a little bit rough, a little bit more raw comedy if you want something actually funny, or something really polished and sterile and suck.
Well, and think about the Norm Macdonald, Adam Sandler, David Spade, Dennis Miller, like all those
Barley.
Yeah, all those years of SNL, Tim Meadows, like what was Chris Rock?
Yeah.
What was the common thing? They were all stand-up comics or improvisers, and they were, all dudes. And really, the women, as bad as that sounds, but like Victoria Jackson, some other people, they didn't move on the way that they did. Nora Dunn, there was just the reason why that was the best ever is you did have the funniest people on the planet at the time writing that show.
Right. And look, no matter how many times you try and shoehorn Maya Rudolph into any vehicle, it only ruins it. It's like grapefruit in a fruit salad. It's all you can taste, and you might as well just eat grapefruit. Please stop trying to make Maya Rudolph a thing. She is not a thing. All right, we are going to play newest gender pronouns here for Mug Club members and start taking your chat. If we were on YouTube today, of course, we're just on Rumble. You can hit that Rumble button. But ceremonially, we would say YouTube, piss off.